So, watching the film, we saw that the way it was recorded, it was like the camera followed the characters, and it was always moving.
One shot. We had one shot.
So, why did you decide to record it in that way? Is it some meaning behind it?
Yes, there's some sort of a meaning. So the way we work out with our actors is that we're rehearsing for almost 2 years, which is a lot. We shot one summer ago. We shot in the mountains just to rehearse. There's a lot of work, a lot of research work. I'm an assistant researcher to my university and a teacher, so I really like to work on the script and to work with actors as much as I can. We like to work together. We're searching the characters inside the script, outside in the real world, and with the actors. They're searching inside themselves. And for me, it was very important to be able to represent not necessarily a story, but the psychological journey of this girl, of Irina. So I wanted for the public, when they look at the screen, to become Irina's emotions, or to become Irina in a way or another, not necessarily to be an observer of the film. So I talked to the DOP with Adrian Pădurețu. He's an amazing director of photography, and I talked to him, and we wanted to find out the best way to represent her emotions and to represent the public. So that was one of the best ways we could find to do that, to have one shots, so that we don't cut the emotions once you do the, I don't know, to cut on the other character or so. So what we wanted to do is to be able to let the public live with Irina. And the story follows Irina as a victim, and then herself as an abuser on the guy that is abusing her, on the characters that are abusing her, her cousin, the family, I don't know, her boyfriend in a way. And in the end, we start to follow her as an abuser, so we put the camera on the victims, and we do the same thing. We do long shots with the victim, but in a way it's still her story. It's her who is actually becoming an aggressor of those aggressors. And what else we did besides the long shot, I don't know if you were able to notice that, is when she's a victim, we played with the fields of depth, and when she's a victim, she's focused only herself, and the world around her is almost blurred. And the characters that are abusers, the world around them is very visible. And when they become the victims, the world around them is blurred and they become very visible. So to be able to, in a way, concentrate the attention on the fact that they're victims. So that's the explanation.
So you say that it's done recorded in a way that we can become Irina.
Yes,
so
her emotions. Yes.
So you think that would be easy for young people, that we would be identified by her, or?
If you identify with her, with Irina, hopefully that was our purpose, yes, and hopefully they can do that. For me, it was very important for the public to identify with the spectrum of the victim. That was the most important for me. To understand the way a victim changes roles in this triangle of being a victim, an aggressor, and a savior, because those are the roles usually inside the victim's character. Yeah.
So you think that young people will have difficulties identifying with Irina, or you think Irina is some sort of young person prototype?
I think each of us and each of the young people have difficulties choosing their own path and being free to express themselves or to take choices or to make good choices. And what I'm following in the film is to identify with their psychological journey, because what's actually happening usually is that they go through a process that's not necessarily conscious. So yeah, I think many of the young people are going to identify with the character.
Okay, and there's a Irina's cousin says in a moment, your generation will
End up smelling flowers by phone.
Yeah.
That's the line that everybody liked. Everybody asked me about that line. Yeah, well, he's dyslexic and he lives in the mountains, and he's obsessed with keeping his culture and to sticking with his own culture. So he feels that the world, because he's dyslexic and he can barely be in touch with the technological side of the world, he feels as if the world is going crazy and he cannot communicate with the whole world. So yeah, it's not necessarily something that I believe. It's mostly a way to represent his conservative point of view that in a way or another contradicts Irina's needs, her need to run away.
I want to ask you because nowadays it's difficult to find money to do a film with COVID-19 also. So I want to ask you if for you was difficult to find money to do it.
Extremely difficult. We had no financing from our state or our government. We only had one sponsor. There were a lot of production companies, co-production companies involved, and this is the way we did it because each of them came with, I don't know, Smart Sound, for example, came with a sound. The sponsor paid for the editing, but all of the other resources were covered by Inlight and Atelier de Film. Our main, the main one was Inlight and the second one was Atelier de Film. And it was a 5-year process to be able to finance this. I actually almost sell one of, I had a little house and I almost sold it to do this film, so yeah.
And also the plot of the film is something different. Do you think that nowadays we do a lot of things that are very similar and we need something that is more uncommon, more different?
Yeah. You feel that the plot is different, or if
It's different, I think, from a lot of films.
Yes, well, my struggle was to represent the females in the village side of Romania because it's when I was a child there, I think I'm the only child that actually got out of that village and went to study. I really think I'm the only one, the only girl there. And I thought that this is not a subject that is up to date. You know, I was like, no, this doesn't happen. And then I went back to my village and I realized that it's still going on and on. Parents are encouraging the girls to stay home or to go work to Italy or in Spain or to get married and make children. And I understood that in the rural side of Romania, it's actually still a huge problem. So I tried to stick to that subject and to follow it from a psychological point of view because that's what interests me. So in a way, I know that the theme is social in a way or another, or it's a very up-to-date, up-to-the modern perspective of females. But for me, what was interesting was not only that, but to follow the psychological journey of this girl.
And also, when you do the film, you were thinking on going to a festival like San Sebastián, or you were not thinking of that?
No, not at all. In Inlight, so Inlight is not only the production company, it's also a school where we develop, we work on a certain way of storytelling. For example, what we do is that I write a script and then the whole team comes, the editor, the DOP, and the actors, and we discuss that and we think about how we can develop it the best way. And I believe a lot in collaborative working. For me, it's very important for each of the creator, each of the member of the team, the actor, the DOP, the editor, to express their own creativity. So I listen to their creative feeling, and we start working on the characters, and I modify the script, thinking about their proposals. Then we test everything that we do. We test with the actors and with the camera. I'm doing an on and off work with the editor. I'm trying to understand if he feels this is the best way to tell the story. So it's more of a research hub there that we're doing. So probably the most important thing for us, for the whole team, is to have non-conventional but a very good way of telling a story. And we're not focusing on the story, to be honest, we're focusing on the psychological side of it. I'm very obsessed with Chekhov and everything else, to be more precise.
And if you want, we do the last question. Why a person has to see Crai Nou?
Okay. Well, if they want to see a different way of approaching filmmaking, if they want to see a different way of approaching storytelling, I think this is one of the films to do it. It's a teamwork. I want to express that as much as I can. I'm very obsessed with having this collaborative way of working, so this is something that they could see. And of course, I think it's a very up-to-date subject, considering the fact that we're in a world where we're trying to understand how a female perspective should be exposed. I think this is a good subject for that, so I invite them. And it's for all sorts of generations, in my opinion. So, yeah.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ce sunteți mă așa secretoase?
Poate nu cauți unde trebuie.